As the US economy recovers, some companies are struggling to meet demand. Alaska Airlines, some of the luggage is getting the executive treatment literally because of labour shortages. The airline's asking managers and executives up to vice presidents to load and unload checked baggage at the Seattle airport. Airlines have been cancelling flights and asking employees to work longer hours to meet rising post-pandemic demand. Sarah's with me, Sara Nelson, International President of Association of Flight Attendants. Gosh, Sara, first of all, it's always good to talk to you. Secondly, it is lovely to speak to you on the other side of the of the worst of the pandemic, and at least we can talk about some hopeful things for the future. So that's a great bit of news. Let's just deal with this. The situation now for your members, as seems to me we're in for buoyant days ahead.
So, Richard, we talked about this early on. And first of all, yes, it's wonderful to speak with you, too. I always miss it when it's been a while. So good to be back with you. But we really put together a plan that we talked about early on in the pandemic that was the Payroll Support Program. And so it was a workers first program for COVID relief in the US. It was the most transparent program in all of COVID relief. And what it said was that the airlines would get grant money to support pay and benefits of workers. They could not furlough anyone. They had to keep us getting our paychecks and our health care. That allowed us to continue to pay taxes and participate in the system. But the other thing that we talked about was that it was very important to keep airline workers in our jobs, because otherwise we lose our certifications, our safety certifications, our security clearance. And that all takes time to put back in place. So what you're seeing right now with the airlines being stretched thin on staff would be much, much worse if the payroll support program had not been put in place by Congress. What you're seeing is a hangover of the lapse in funding from October 1st to the end of December last year. And so this would be completely inoperable if we had not had that program in place.
Right, but we see such buoyant rebound in the domestic market. Your members are being recalled. Flights are heading towards full. International is a slightly different area. Do you feel more confident about the situation?
Well, I'll tell you, we certainly have a global view as flight attendants, and it's good to be here on CNN International because aviation is an international business, and until we get international travel back, there is just no real road to recovery. Business travel will not come back until we have that international travel. We won't be able to have the tourism exchange between countries and really restart those economies. So we are really looking forward to restarting that. Now, it's very important that we recognize we're on the better end of this pandemic, but it's not over yet. And so we still have policies in place, like everyone has to wear a mask in transportation, because we cannot contribute to continuing this pandemic.
And I noticed one or two overseas airlines are opening up. I mean, Norwegian went, and it did have its US bases as well. But there are new opportunities. Do you welcome those overseas airlines that choose to set up, particularly new low-cost carriers, US bases?
Well, I have a success story to tell you about, actually. We had U.S. bases for Norwegian, as you noted. So we represented the flight attendants who were based in the U.S. flying for Norwegian. And we had a big battle with them to organize first and then to negotiate a contract. And we finally got that contract in place in March of 2020, just in time for the airline to shut down operations and then ultimately go out of business. And so we have been negotiating a pre-hire agreement with a new airline that's starting up, Norse Airways, that's taking some of the planes from Norwegian. And we have this pre-hire agreement that is phenomenal. First of all, it's going to recall our former members who lost their jobs, so they'll have the first chance to get those jobs back. And they have the chance, once they get up and flying, to vote in their union and then vote on a contract that we've already negotiated that will only go into effect once they ratify that. But it's going to provide the highest starting pay for a flight attendant among any airline in the U.S. By a significant amount. So those are great opportunities for flight attendants going forward.
And we're going to be interesting to see exactly how their model, bearing in mind its predecessor of sorts. Sara, good to see you. We will talk more as the year moves on to find out how things are going. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.